Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another installment of movie reviews. I am your host, Helpful Angel 30, and today we're going to be looking at Sleepy Hollow, starring Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci. Let's get into this mix. So, the movie starts off with, a Jonathan Masmith, and he's being chased through the countryside by the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman decapitates his driver's head from his body, causing Jonathan Masmith to jump out of the carriage, and then he gets his head chopped off. Then we cut to New York, 1799. The year is 1799, New York City, where we meet a Constable Crane, played by Johnny Depp, and he's, telling the police, hey, there's a body here in the river, in the canal. He lets his superiors know. He was like, hey, we need to, establish the cause of death. He's like, one of the constituents, he was like, hey, one of his superiors was like, hey, the cause of death is drowning. He was like, why is it that, to solve crimes, we got to use medieval torture techniques instead of using our brains? The judge was like, hey, that's enough from you. Like, we've heard this song from you for, a long, long time. I can let you either cool your heels and calm down in the cells, or there's a town like 2 days journey to the north, a town called Sleepy Hollow, where victims' heads have been removed, chopped off. Bring the killer here so that we can question him. And so Ichabod's like, okay, cool. He gets to the town of Sleepy Hollow, where he meets Baltus Van Tassel, his daughter, Katrina Van Tassel, and Lady Van Tassel, along with his constituents, Notary Hardenbrooks, the pastor, Reverend, the town doctor. And so they all breaking it down to him like, hey, like he was like the horseman. He was a mercenary, sent by, German soldiers to like keep England under control. But unlike his, fellow comrades, he wasn't in it for like money. He was in it for the bloodshed. And so they caught him and killed him and put him in an unmarked grave along with his sword. And every night he comes back from hell to like for his victims. And so like the Reverend was like, Reverend Steenwick, he was like, hey, like I suggest like you read this is the only book that you read. He was like, what is that? And he gave him a like Holy Bible with like the Van Tassel and Van Dort's family tree on it, and like it'll come into play later. But anyway, on his first, investigation, he like summons everybody to like he summons like the town doctor, the Baltus Van Tassel, the notary, the reverend. They all like, hey, what's going on? He's like, hey, we could found another victim. I was like, and so Ichabod Crane like comes in. He was like, hey, like, the wound has the neck wound has been cauterized, like almost like a hot iron, like branded, like just a clean cut to the neck, no additional bleeding, just straight cauterized the wound. He's like, hey, what do you think this could be? I don't know. He's like, but I will find out. Turns out, like, more victims have just been popping up. There was a widow wench who, got her head chopped off. Turns out, like, she was pregnant, and, like, he wound up, just chopping it up with Baltus, Reverend Steenwick, the notary, and the doctor. He was like, hey, like, she was with child, like, and, he winds up talking to the Reverend Steenwick. He was like, hey, tell me the name of the father. He was like, I can't do that. He was like, dude, tell me what was the name of the father. He was like, I can't. The horseman's on his way. He was like, there's no need for such nonsense. Now tell me the name of, tell me the name. He was like, and so the horseman comes and chops off his head, and then Ichabod Crane like winds up fainting because what he just witnessed. And so Baltus Van Tassel like comes to him and was like, are you okay? And he was like, I saw him, the headless horseman, he's real. I saw him. He's like, of course you saw him. Of course you saw him. Like, we told you about him. He's like, no, I literally saw him. Flesh and blood. It was a horseless. He was headless. He's like, I know. He was like, Ichabod was like, you don't know because you were there. You weren't there. He was like, everybody told you the start of, the film. Like, everybody told you the start of the film. And then, like, he winds up passing out again. And so this time, like, the horseman is controlled, and he winds up, like, killing a mother and killing just killing a baby. Well, not a baby, but an infant, like, and he winds up, like, killing Brom, the guy from, like, the start of the movie. He was like, hey, sir, what's your name? And he was like, I didn't give it. He was like, let's teach you some manners. Somebody got to teach you some manners. And so, after that, Ichabod Crane winds up, fainting again, passing out again. This time, like, being tended to Katrina. Katrina is a witch, and she gave him, like, a book containing, like, spells, and she was like, hey, keep it close to your heart. it'll protect you from harm. He winds up telling you, like, Ichabod winds up telling Katrina, and he was like, hey, the horseman killed again. I'm sorry. You lost your brave man, Brom. He was like, only I require a kiss from a lady, a woman who did not know my name or knew my face. And he was like, forgive me, I speak of kisses, and you lost your brave man, Brom. And she was like, that wasn't my dude. Like, that wasn't my dude. She, like, and they wind up professing their love for one another, and they hug. They wind up going to the western woods where Ichabod and a young Masmith, like, venture to the woods. They wind up finding, presumably, Lady Van Tassel's sister, and she winds up telling Ichabod Crane, like, hey, he comes back from the grave every night, comes from hell to collect heads from which, was taken from him. So, they wind up going to the church. Actually, I take that back. They wind up going to Notary Hardbrooks, where Ichabod Crane winds up, discovering, that the 4 conspirators were Notary Hardbrooks, who notified the documents of a new will that had been changed from a previously old will to a new will. The Reverend who married the widow wench, and Jonathan Masmith, saying that she'd get everything upon his death, and then the doctor who discovered that the widow wench was pregnant. So all 4 conspirators, had something to play. All the evidence supported that theory goes now to Baltus Van Tassel. And so Ichabod Crane winds up piecing that together, making that, a diagram of all the evidence that he's collected. The evidence gets burned by Katrina because, she doesn't believe that all the evidence points to her father. Her father gets killed by the horseman because the doctor was like, hey, it's time to confess our sins. This is what actually happened. Your 4 friends played you false. And so the doctor gets killed by the Reverend, and the Reverend winds up, Baltus winds up shooting the Reverend dead. The horseman winds up stabbing Baltus Van Tassel, dragging him back outside, and then beheading him. All the more while Katrina winds up creating a protective spell, and then she winds up fainting after what she just saw. Turns out she winds up falling into a deep sleep, passing out, to which Ichabod winds up leaving, but not before telling silently telling young Masmith, hey, Katrina did this. He was like, how could you think so? He was like, villainy wears many masks. but not so, dangerous as, the will of virtue. Like, hey, like, you better straighten up. You better straighten up and quit being so naive. That's He didn't say that, but it felt like he said that. And so he winds up leaving. Katrina winds up waking up. Lady Van Tassel, she was behind Horseman being controlled all along. She winds up kidnapping Katrina and taking her to a windmill, to where, like, she was like, hey, me and my sister, we lived in the woods. We stumbled across the Horseman. I gave my soul to Satan for, like, to take revenge on the people who wronged me. So, like, he comes for you. Like, he comes for, like, the last line of defense, which is you. So, like, yeah, the Horseman comes tonight. And so, young Madsmith, he was like, hey, he was getting ready to attack her and put it into all of this till she scared him. And then Ichabod Crane showed up at the last minute to save the day. They wind up traveling to the Western Woods. Ichabod winds up, like, knocking her off the horse, which contained in a bag, the Horseman's head, or, well, his skull. He winds up, Jonathan Madsmith, young Madsmith, he winds up knocking Lady Van Tassel out. Ichabod grabs the skull, throws it to the Horseman. He drops Katrina because she was getting ready to become headless herself. And the Horseman comes back, summons his horse, picks up Lady Van Tassel, drags her to hell. Ichabod winds up passing out yet again. And Ichabod, young Madsmith, and Katrina, they all wind up going back to New York and living happily ever after. And that, my friends, is Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. This has been my first time watching Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. I'm your host, Helpful Angel 30. For more movie reviews, I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.